Hi guys, so a couple of disclaimers before I start this video. I know I said I wasn't going to do Booktube reviews anymore, but judging by the background here, I bet you can already tell this is a Booktube review. Disclaimer number 2. I'm sorry that I kind of wear the same outfits all the time in my vlogs. I know nobody's commented on it, but it bothers me. So I wanted to say sorry for wearing the same outfits all the time. When I'm at home, my uniform is pajamas, so I pretty much rotate through the same really warm pajamas all the time. With all that being said, this review I'm going to be talking about the book Stiff by Mary Roach. And this book is about what happens to bodies that are donated to science or for medical advancement or whatever. She starts out talking about bodies that are donated to like science and medicine, and then she talks about bodies that go to this place called the Body Farm, which is where you can donate your body and they kind of leave it decompose and they study it for like crimes and stuff to like see how long people have been dead for. Also, they study bones there once those bodies are done decomposing. She also talks about cadavers that are used for testing the result of car crashes and like the different ways people can die fatally. She talks about how the army kind of uses cadavers. She talks about how bodies are used to determine how planes crash. At one point she started talking about how bodies have been used like for medicine via cannibalism, like people would like specifically mummify bodies so they could eat them later for medical purposes back in like a really long time ago. And overall, it was a super interesting book. I really like this book a lot. I plan to reread it in the future, and it got me thinking. I think it makes you a little bit more comfortable with death in general, and she tells it very like lively. It's not dry. It's really interesting, and I really like this book, and I recommend it to you guys if you're at all interested in what happens to your body if you donate to science or medicine. What I didn't like about the book, there wasn't too much I didn't like about the book, except for the chapter about the cannibalism. I felt it kind of like meandered off what she was talking about, and I kind of skipped that whole chapter because I didn't find it interesting, and it was kind of pointless to me. A lot of people's problem with this was that she made too many like personal side notes about like trying to inject humor in there, and a lot of the stuff in that book has asterisks and they lead to footnotes, kind of like a little bit off topic, but some of it's kind of pertinent. But you can easily skip those, and then sometimes she'll try to inject a little bit of humor in like a side comment. But overall, I didn't think it ruined the book for me. But there were some people in the Goodreads reviews that like couldn't finish the book because of that kind of side commentary thing, and I think that's kind of stupid. I noticed it a little more because I had read those reviews, so I was like almost like looking for them. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's very interesting. It's on a subject that people don't really think about or really even know about. So I recommend this for pretty much anybody. Sometimes at least since I started reading after high school, I'll get on a kick of reading a certain style of books or books about a certain subject more specifically. And for me right now, because of this, I'm reading a lot about cadavers and death. I recently went to a place I told Bethany and Liz about, but it's called Second and Charles, and it's a really cool, it's like Barnes & Noble's, but thrifty. And they have books for thrift store prices. Like this is originally $13.95. I got it for $48, and a lot of the books are priced that much. I think some of the most expensive ones are like 15 bucks. The new stuff is priced about what a new book would be, but they also have a lot of other stuff there like records and instruments, a lot of video games, manga, so I really like the place, and there's not very many in the country, but if you watching this and you find yourself near one, please go to it because it's really cool, and you can take your stuff there to resell and get store credit or cash, and that's actually how I got this book. I also got this book called After the Funeral, and it's kind of about what happens to some of the famous corpses, like Mary Shelley's corpse, who wrote Frankenstein, like 35 other famous people that died. This book was like $2.79, but I picked it up, so I'm going to read that eventually. I also found a couple other books while I was adding these ones to Goodreads, and it was like, hey, you might like these. I've just got out Buried Alive, which is like kind of like a history of being buried alive and like the fear of being buried alive, and I got that out of the library. But I'm not reading that now because I got about 50 pages into it, and this is kind of like I could do a whole other review on this, but it was really dry, like, especially if you're going from Stiff, which is super lively and fun in its own way, and kind of bright, even though it's talking about dark subject matter. If you go from this to Buried Alive, it makes it really hard to read Buried Alive, even though there's some excerpts from Buried Alive in here, but I skipped them because I knew I was going to read that next, but I shouldn't have skipped it because I didn't finish the book. Anyway, Buried Alive is kind of story after story of different tales of people being buried alive, and it's told by a doctor. And he tells it very clinically, and it's just very dry. And I thought it was going to be more like a real history and like more psychology, like why people are scared of being buried alive. So I did not finish it. I did not like it. And so now I'm waiting on Smoke It's in Your Eyes. It's Stories from the Crematorium by Caitlin Doty. She's a mortician that does vlogs on YouTube here, and I really love her stuff, and she wrote a book, so I'm going to read that. And then another book called The Removers, which is about a father and son who clean up crime scenes, and it's a memoir, so that sounds really interesting. And then probably I'll read After the Funeral, so if you can tell, I'm on kind of a deathy, corpsey kick right now. But I find it really interesting, and I'm really into reading stuff I don't really know, like different worlds I don't really know too much about. And death is such a scary subject, but if you learn about it more and think about it more, it makes you more comfortable and like think about what you want to really happen to you when you die. So that's partly also why I'm reading these books, to kind of make me more comfortable with the idea of death. So hope you guys enjoyed this review of Stiff and my kind of chronology of what I'm going to be reading next. So love you guys. Bye. Maybe you can't stand there. Who has to get back? Who has to? Who has to? Come on, back up. Pop.